to see. Against me shall prosper. I don't have to worry about a thing. I'm more than a conqueror through Jesus Christ, and He's gonna bring me out all right. Yes, He is. It's amazing grace that's brought me safe thus far, and grace is gonna lead me home. I stood on solid ground and told my storm, and you need to tell your storm today. Oh, wind stop blowing, love stop flowing, lightning stop flashing, work will stop crashing, darkness go away, clouds move away. That's what I told. Oh, yeah. You weigh me down, Lord, He's gonna stand by my side, no matter what. Oh, yeah, some can't make me, bills can't break me, no matter how.
Sorry, ladies. I'm not sure what keeps happening.
That's what I told. Oh, that's what I told the storm. Somebody out there is going through some trials.
Yeah, they try to put me in a box I don't fit. Try to make me blend in, I won't quit. God made me on purpose with intention. Every quirk, every flaw is part of the mission. They say I'm too much and not enough. Too loud, too quiet, too soft, too tough. But I was crafted by the master's hand. They don't understand, but that wasn't the plan. I don't need approval from the crowd. I was built to stand out, built to be loud. In a world of copies, I'm the original print. Signed by the creator, that's the blueprint. I'm not like you, and that's okay. I'm not for you, I'm built this way. Can't change me now. I'm built different, yeah, I'm built different. God made me special, that was intentional. Built different, yeah, I'm built different. Not a mistake, yeah, this is all sequential. Oh, they can't box me, can't stop me, can't change what God made. Hey, I'm built different, yeah, I'm built different. And I'm walking in it every single day. They want me to dim my light so they feel bright. Want me to play small so they feel right. But I was made to shine in my own lane, not to compete but to operate in my domain. Different DNA, different calling, different grace, so I'm not falling into the trap of comparison. I'm too busy being who God said I am. Set apart before I was formed, chosen before the world was born. Peculiar people, royal priesthood, that's my bloodline, that's my neighborhood. I'm not like you, and that's okay. I'm not for you, I'm built this way. Can't change me now. I'm built different, yeah, I'm built different. God made me special, that was intentional. Built different, yeah, I'm built different. Not a mistake, yeah, this is all sequential. They can't box me, can't stop me, can't change what God made. I'm built different, yeah, I'm built different. And I'm walking in it every single day, yeah. To everybody who feels like they don't belong, You were never meant to fit in, you were meant to be strong. Your differences aren't defects, they're your design. Stop trying to beat them when you were born to shine. You're not too sensitive, you're not too bold. You're not too young for this, you're not too old. You're right on time, you're right on track. God knew what he was doing when he made you like that. So walk in your purpose, walk in your power. This is your moment, this is your hour. Don't apologize for how he wired you. The world needs what's inside of you. Build different, yeah, I'm built different. God made it special, that was intentional. Build different, yeah, I'm built different. This is all sequential. Just got me, can't change what God made. What he made. Build different, yeah, I'm built different. I'm walking it every single day. Every day. Yeah, I'm built different, and I'm good with that. Custom made, heaven designed. One of one, one of a kind. Build different, that's who I am. Built different by God's own hand.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Spirit Rising on this. I don't even know what the temperature is. I'd be so confused. And really, that's the temperature changes here in St. Louis is what has driven us getting to the point of today's sermon. Just the confusion that made me do some checking and some thinking and you know what happens when I get to thinking. So, um, yeah, welcome to Spirit Rising, a place where souls come to um, appreciate, lean into the shared journey, the blessings that come, the stories that we share, understanding that we value the perspective and the value, the collective wisdom of the whole of this group. I am so happy to have you all with us this morning, and hopefully some others will hop in and join us. So, good morning, Mama Love. So happy to see your face. Good morning, Sally A. Good morning, Q. Nice to see you again. Good morning, Sweet Tea. Hey, Erin. Good morning, Delisha. Um, I'm gonna pray us in, and then we gonna jump in because I don't know how much we're gonna get to, and I'm just excited about it. So we're gonna sing them. Hey, Mo. Good morning. Okay. Mother, Father, Creator, glorious one who holds all wisdom, all knowledge, all source of energy and power, we are grateful and thank you for this day, for light, for love, for the sun, for breath, for the activity of our limbs, Lord. We know that everyone did not wake up and join us on this day, but we know that all things that happen are meant to have happened and that you will make good of all things. We humbly ask that you amplify all the divine energies that reside inside us, that we might better connect with self and source and each other and all of the other God creatures in this universe. We welcome all well and uplifted ancestors to be present in this space. Please guide us, direct us with your wisdom, hold us, comfort us, and protect us as we further explore the Word of God. Great Spirit, we call upon you to restore and replenish our sense of power. Give us the courage today to lean in into spaces that maybe we haven't tapped in, or help us to better clarify spaces that we have. Give us the vision and determination to overcome the blockades and the hurdles that keep us from being in right alignment with you and with our highest self. All of these things and whatever is on the hearts and minds of those present, we ask in honor of the Most High. Ashe and amen. Okay. So I talk to myself. I also talk to other people when they're not around. No longer embarrassed to admit that. That used to make me feel embarrassed. But I will have an entire conversation with you, whether you are sitting with me or not. I'm going to get it out. My point in all of this is that sometimes the communication, even with self, gets difficult um, when truth surface, when big feelings emerge, when you're wrestling to understand you a bit better, and talking it out can help. But the question is, how do you untangle that web when you are not communicating with yourself well, when you are not communicating with you well, when you are not hearing you clearly, when you are not listening clearly, when that becomes a tangled web, a ball of yarn, a box of old computer cords, an old double Dutch rope, if you ever remember trying to untangle one of those. What happens when your communication with you starts to feel like that? That is our driving question. How do you untangle the web when you are not communicating with you well? It is in the chat. And this morning, I am drinking Polar, and it's the orange vanilla, super yummy and really good when it's cold.
So I will jump in and share that when my mind is jumbled, I have to write everything out. I have to write it down to get it separate from me, to see it clearly, um, and then organize it. Or then I feel more confident to go to another human and say, here, look at this. Now, what do you think?
I love that you said I have to write it to see it clearly. The separation of our senses. How do we clarify? How do we see better? But sometimes it's not with our eyes. Sometimes we have to do something different. I mentioned that I talk to myself, but sometimes that looks like recording because I got to do a verbal dump, right? And I may or may not even have to listen to it, but it does sometimes require engaging other senses. Any other thoughts? How do you handle it when you are not communicating with yourself well?
I can jump in here. So good to see everybody. Thanks, Adane.
Right.
Question. I just had a moment like this the other night because I was sick and I still am a little sick and I was just feeling really disconnected from myself. And so I came in my prayer room and I like lit all the candles and just sat in the dark. And I just started like sounding, like not even words. I just had to like sound and kind of sing, but it wasn't like, yeah, I'm glad no one was in my house because it was probably seemed pretty crazy, but it was like I just needed to sound and sing and like be in my body, like kind of like stretch and move and like that really kind of brought me back to myself. Yeah.
I love that. And I love the word sounding. Like I just kind of had to sound like, yes, because everything doesn't have words. Um, One of the most beautiful things I learned or have learned and am learning to do is to express how I'm feeling with like color and texture and what this feeling might, if I'm putting my hands on it, is it wavy, is it prickly, is it loud, is it scratchy, these things, because the English language definitely isn't perfect by so many stretches of the imagination, but that means that we don't have everything that we need to name things. And that's also evident because words keep being added to the dictionary. That's making me think about that whole 6-7 thing that really pissed me off, but we don't have to talk about that on this particular program. Mama Love, 6-7 is a slang term that is rooted in a rap song and has become quite popular among preteens, sixth, seventh, eighth graders, um, where it turns into a huge just kind of joke, but they use it incessantly, and it literally has no meaning. It's just something that is said like a filler. And dictionary, was it dictionary.com or not dictionary.com? It was it Webster's Dictionary? One of the dictionaries um, decided they were going to add it, even though it does not have an actual definition. And if that is not indicative of what is happening in this world, I do not know what is. So I hate the terminology. Anywho, go ahead, Mama.
Okay, I gotta address this first. Because I'm like, what about 21? Okay, like is that gonna be in there too? That's I don't know, maybe an ageist. Um, I love this question because I just like when I have to sit with how not good, not stellar I am being, and I feel like I've been struggling heavy with slowing down my thoughts. I feel like something that does help me is either I dress how I feel or I dress how I want to feel. And then what's been helping is like I don't have words. Like I really do. I'm a lover of words. I do not have words. So like collaging has been helping imagine. And yeah, like that's been like helping me feel tethered.
I like that. It's the action and the activation of it for me. Um, it's just another form of expression. You know, if it's confusing in one aspect, what other aspect can we lean into where there feels to be a bit more clarity? And I like dressing how you feel or how you want to feel. Like I'm quick to put on a face if I don't feel up to it. Um, or even a partial face, like a little something, something, a little rouge, a little eyeliner, a little something. If I'm not gonna do a whole beat, just to feel something different, to shift that. Oh, we're gonna talk about this because proximity to the issue. I love it. Okay, I'm gonna stop here. Delisha, and then Sally.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
Um, I appreciate this question, and like many of you, I am someone who talks to myself. I'm someone who writes and finds that really helpful. The thing that I've been doing lately is just being silent, and I realize how much voices I'm constantly taking in, whether it's music or podcasts or YouTube's in the background, or just like I am constantly surrounded by noise. And I think part of what makes it hard to hear myself is that I'm just hearing so much of other people. And so I've been trying to like be in my car and just be quiet, like have silence, and be in my house and just have like mornings that are really silent versus going to like my podcast to hear, whatever. And it just helped me to hear other voices that are trying to communicate with me. Maybe it is my body, maybe it is spirit, maybe it is nature, maybe it is me. But silence has just been such a helpful tool for me. Like I think this might be the first time I've talked today, and I'm just like learning to enjoy the quiet and what comes through in that place.
I love that um, the quieting of the world to help quiet our minds. And Delisha, you made me think of I broke two of my nails. So I soaked off yesterday, soaked the rest of my nails off. And I literally told my nail tech how whenever I have to soak off, it makes me feel like I'm on punishment because it forces me to sit there with my hands in a bowl and I can't do anything. I'm just stuck. And she literally said, maybe you need to be still more often. Oh, but my hands were in a bowl, so I couldn't like even flicker off. Um, just annoying. But I'm hearing you differently, Delisha. Like even that statement, like, I mean, okay, so maybe she was right a little bit, whatever. But also the quietness and the stillness, how being intentional about that space regularly, how important it probably is to hearing ourselves more clearly. And until you said it, I did not realize how much I fill my space with podcast and books and music even, um, just just as background noise. We put on things sometimes for the purpose of having background noise. What about us in this society requires us to create background noise in order for us to think that we're functioning better? These are just great wonderings. That's a wonderful thing. Silence, quiet the world. Sally, thank you, Delisha.
I don't know what I do. Um, in the past 2 or 3 weeks has been just a jumble of trying to find a new place to live and teaching those 6, 7 kids who I overheard a third grade teacher said, I will take your 6 minutes of your recess for 7 days if I hear that again. And this is a third grade teacher, so it's not just middle school.
Oh my gosh.
Not just middle school. So I did that in my classroom and I don't hear those those 2 numbers anymore, which is really, yeah. But I think the one thing that I do is I create. So I sat down at my sister's house, who I'm house sitting for, and found yarn and made a hat. I didn't like the hat. I took it apart and made another one with the same yarn, but I like it better. So I just continue to do the creative thing for me. And I turn the radio off sometimes because on my way home, I have wonderful conversations with myself. And sometimes I am cussing people out because they need to get cussed out, but I can't cuss my boss out. So anyway, moving on. So I for me, it's my hands. I use my hands a lot to untangle whatever is crazy. So yeah.
Sally, you are hilarious. And you literally untangle. Like that's wild. Like you're talking about yarn and dismantling, but like you're literally doing the entangling with your hands, which is amazing. But it's crazy because you started off by saying, I don't know what I do. And then you said I get creative, which is literally the biggest thing that we can ever do for ourselves. So I just think that you're hilarious, with the literal untangling. Um, yeah, I can't even tell people to do that. So go learn from Sally. Maybe she'll teach us. Maybe we can have like what is it, crocheting?
Yes, crocheting or knitting, either one. We could have a hooker because we use crochet hooks. So we could have a hookers club.
Can we call it that?
I don't know.
I'd like to. Just saying. Okay.
Anybody like being called a hooker?
I mean,
Literally, that's what these little things are.
I would like it. That's all I'm saying.
Look at your.
I would join. I'd be there.
Yeah, we could think.
We'll think through it.
All right, we'll figure it out.
And we would get t-shirts. Okay. Not gonna sit on this too much longer because it's so funny. Any other thoughts? Good morning, Alicia. Thank you for joining us. And thank you for reposting that, Delisha. Any other thoughts? How do you untangle the web? How do you figure out how to get more clear, better communication with yourself when things get wonky? What do you do when you aren't talking to yourself well?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Happy Sunday. Happy day, I guess. So, I'm reading the question, and that is a very interesting question because I find myself to be an expert in a lot of things, but I'm not an expert in myself, which is weird, right? I'm an expert in planning events and creating things and cooking and doing all of those things, But when someone asks me, what's the expert, what can you tell me about you? And I'm going, who? Am I sharing what people told me about me, or am I sharing what I feel about me, or what I think I am? Because I live in a society where people, for some strange reason, feel like they have to tell you who you are. Like it's like it's their guilt to tell you what you are and whom you are, and how you should be and how you should think and how you should feel. Because because in this society we can't be truthful about what we think, because then it's a cancel culture, right? They want to cancel you on social media. They want to cancel you in, in friendship. They want to block you in Facebook and Instagram because you have a thought that they are not in agreement with. You have an opinion that they don't feel is normative, if so to speak. And so then you start to feel like, okay, you start to step down, like, well, okay, maybe I don't know myself the way I think I should, right? And so how to untangle that web, it's like I need to tangle it, because I can't untangle something that ain't tangled, if that makes sense. Because my web is not tangled, because I don't know what it is that needs to be untangled, because it's not tangled. So and so I still, find myself asking myself, who am I instinctually? Am I a woman, or am I a human for folk? Am I creative, or I just have great ideas? You know what I mean? So that's something that I'm gonna sit on just a little bit more, but I just kind of want to talk out loud to kind of help myself get to that answer of, what, when you say communicating, are we saying by writing? Are we saying by singing? Are we saying by dancing? Because it's many forms of communication, and what's the best mode of communication in order to find who I am, the real me. So yeah, that's all I have.
No, that was so rich. Because the first thing I got to thinking about was how, like, sometimes you have to destroy everything in order to build something, right? Like whatever was there, you just gotta get rid of the whole thing, and then you can kind of build from scratch. And this idea or notion that having to sift through what we think we believe of who we are, to determine what is truly us. And I know a couple months ago we did a process of like self-inventory that I do think we should do regularly, but it really is kind of that process of going through and saying, who am I now? What do I believe now? It may not be the same thing as I believed a couple of days ago, and maybe I believed something that someone told me, but maybe that's not true, or maybe it was true and it's just no longer true. So I don't think that this idea of not being an expert in the self is too far-fetched, in that we are consistently evolving, and that's moment to moment. So maybe part of the communication with self is the realization that we must engage multiple modes of communication, because they all won't apply all the time in every way. We can't always write it out. We may not always be able to talk it out. We might have to do some sounding, or some twerking, or some sitting silently, or some other things in order to make it work regularly. We might have to engage all of the modalities to better understand the self, and whatever form of communication with the self is required in a given moment. It's not a cookie cutter. So I think you gave us all a nice little catapult into deeper thought around this. Thank you, Alicia. Um, I think almost everyone is gone, so I can kind of hop into our framework. So like last Sunday, the temperature dropped to like 32 by like 7 o'clock. Crazy. And we know that St. Louis will do all four seasons in a day. Like, I get that. I'm used to it. But like, it literally went to, like, we hadn't had a cold night like that. And then it drops to 32. And I think before the night was over, it was at like 29. Just immediately in that day, it was sharp and it was sudden and it was shocking for the body. I eat ice, like Quick Trip crushed ice, constantly. And I wanted some super bad. Um, but I was not going out in that cold to get it. I just wasn't. I refused. Because, like, I don't even think that I had access to the amount of clothing that I would have needed to tend to 29-degree weather in that moment. I hadn't pulled it from the closet yet. I hadn't even figured out which closet it's in yet. So this technical weather, we're in fall, it's November, we should be dipping, right? And we spent the first half of the week, people got on puffers like everywhere, right? I saw a couple of knit hats and some scarves, like because it was cold. And the weather isn't wrong. We're not out of sync. It was just abrupt, not inappropriate. It just was sudden. It's not out of line. It was just um, immediate and seemingly permanent. Like everyone is like, oh, okay, we're finally cutting this curve. Temperatures are finally going to shift. And then St. Louis kicks in. Because by the end of the week, we are back to 80. 80. We started this week at 32 and we ended at 80. That's crazy work. Like, that's wild. So, yesterday, I'm seeing people back in shorts and slides. Everybody's trying to figure out, can I actually put away my summer clothes? Do I actually pull out like the winter bins? Like, I found them, but do you actually, integrate them into your daily, whatever? It's disorienting. It's not out of season, it's just out of sync, or it feels that way. And that's how spiritual retrograde feels. It's not wrong. It just feels out of season. It's confusing. It's uncertainty. It's disorienting. It's unsettling enough to make us think that we must be wrong, twisted, going backwards. Retrograde in astronomy is the illusion of backward motion, of a planetary backward motion. A planet appears to be moving backwards in relationship to the Earth. And while it is in fact still moving forward, our vantage point has shifted based on proximity. Hear that. The vantage point has shifted based on proximity. What you see is not always what is happening because your perspective of a thing changes depending on how close you are to it. In other words, the closer you are to something, the less able you are to see what is actually happening. There is a very impactful philosopher from the English Enlightenment period, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who says there is a period of life when we go back as we advance. Kind of sounds like Sankofa, but that's not this point. When things appear to be moving backward, as opposed to our intentional reaching back. There is a period of life when we go back as we advance. Spiritually, the same thing happens. We think that we've overcome something. We think that we've healed from a thing. We felt the breakthrough, and then suddenly, like that 32-degree weather, here go these feelings again. They're surfaced again, and now we feel like we're back where we started. Now this thing feels insurmountable again. We feel like this cycle is never going to be broken. We feel like we're going backwards, or at least we're back where we started, but in truth, we're not. We're at a different point, at a different vantage point. Spiritually, the same thing happens. The soul does not.
If you come back, I'll walk back.
Good morning, Carolyn.
Start that way. I'll start that way too.
Thank you. The soul does not regress. You are not confused, although it is confusing. You did not lose ground. You are not out of alignment, but it feels that way because you've lapped your experience. So let me explain this. Imagine being a long distance runner and getting so far ahead of the group or the competition that you end up running behind them. To somebody who doesn't know, it looks like you're in last place. And if you forget the work that you've done, you might be convinced yourself for a moment that your current position is evidence of your lack of progress. It looks like you're losing the race, but in fact, you are so far along that your vantage point has changed. The picture looks different because your right now perspective is the result of your movement. It only appears as if you're going backwards. You've lapped yourself. The reality is, you are not at the starting point. Your feelings are going to be similar, but they are not, in fact, the same. Sadness, again, ain't sadness from the first time. And that, again, is okay. When our spirits encounter a sudden cold front of emotions, an unexpected breeze of doubt, a sharp drop in our energy, sometimes it's hard to remember that this too is part of a season. Our confusion is the illusion, not the surfacing of things or their occurrences. This is the illusion of spiritual retrograde. There is no backward movement. Your perspective is adjusting. We've talked before about the spiral staircase. You re-encounter something because it's at a 45-degree angle and you're hitting it again. The only difference is that at first you were on the ground level and now you're on the 5th floor. It's going to look different. Once you cut that curve, you might still feel that twinge. Some pains aren't going to go away completely, but it does not feel like it did when you were on that bottom floor. It's not the same. The proximity changes our perspective. There is no regression. Our revelation is simply coming into view at a new angle. Now we get to see different parts of the whole. We have not lost the long game. We are reorienting our bodies and our spirits and our eyes to the new space. I don't know about y'all, but when I wake up in the morning, I gotta blink a couple times and look around before everything comes into focus. Spiritual retrograde is the same thing. It's a period of time where we have to blink a couple of times, where things get hazy at first. Things seem out of focus for a moment. The emotions that arise trigger something that make us throw our hands up and, we're human, so we get dramatic. Oh my God, I must not have done anything. None of this work must have happened. I must be at the starting point again, instead of realizing that something in our sight line is shifting. Something is being recalibrated inside of us. Sometimes we need a moment to shift to a fast transition. Retrograde is a perspective problem, not a progress problem. But similar to planetary alignments and the Earth's temperature shifts, there are some guidelines for space of time, no matter how swift or lengthy, because perspective is reality. And when things feel off, you're not incorrect. And we got to know what to do in that space too. So how do we know? The calendar and the planets literally themselves show us by their positioning when they are in retrograde. But how do we know when a period of spiritual retrograde is apparent? Think of the craziness of the full moon, only longer, right? So old emotions are going to resurface out of nowhere, not because you're back in the old story, but because your spirit is reviewing what you've outgrown. Old patterns will show up and request permission to engage. It'll feel like deja vu in your chest, new and old at the same time, familiar but somehow fresh again. That's the confusion. Remember, that's the illusion. Your clarity suddenly gets foggy. Like what made perfect sense to you yesterday feels out of alignment today. The decisions that you were certain about are now making you question again, making it worse. Your intuition seems like it's on whisper, on silence. No notes, no suggestions, just buffering. But remember, retrograde only feels like you're moving backwards. It only feels like static noise. Don't think that things are not happening. Number 3, you might feel confrontational because your reactive sensors are way more active than usual. Fight or flight, right? What do we do in situations when we don't know what's happening? Imagine being in a dark room and hearing some noises. We're going to act out in some ways. and our sensitivity is going to be spiked. This is our discernment sharpening itself, attuning itself to the new circumstances. And it needs the entire spectrum of emotions. You ever have, just like the weather in St. Louis, you ever have like all the emotions in one day? Like all of them? Like all of them? You go from being happy to sad to pissed to engaged to joyful to loving to, all of them. You have all of them. Sometimes when that happens, it's because your body again is shifting into something else, and all systems have to fire. We got to make sure that everything works. We got to make sure it all works. And it makes you feel insane. It makes you feel crazy. What is going on with me? And what's the question we ask ourselves? What is wrong with me? Nothing. We're just in a spiritual retrograde. So communication gets complicated. People hear you wrong. You hear yourself wrong. Words don't make sense coming from you, coming to you. Conversations can feel more draining than clarifying. And that's not normally you. You're normally the person that can write from here until whenever. You're clear with your expectations, with your standards, with your boundaries, but something is not happening properly. Everything isn't landing correctly. And that's because all the pieces haven't come together yet. The vision is not clear yet, and that's okay. Energy shifts and mood swings. Either you suddenly feel exhausted or suddenly feel restless. Retrograde plays with our inner systems, our inner weather systems. Cold front, warm front, tornado, hurricane, earthquakes, all in 1 week. And then come the internal contradictions. Spirit says pause, but your mind says push. Spiritual retrograde creates an internal friction that tells you not to force anything right now, but also full speed ahead. It's confusing. Number 7, God feels close, but so does evil. I put evil in quotation marks. It throws our discernment off. We can literally talk ourselves in or out of anything at the moment and feel right and justified in either direction because divine repositioning is happening under the surface. So we don't know which way it's going to move, which way we need to shake, what to do. But our spidey senses are tingling and we know that something is happening. We just can't put our figure on it. We have this feeling, but there's no tangible evidence. Now, if all of this sounds like PMS, it should. Because retrograde is this in-between knowing. It's the pregnant pause before the revelation. If it sounds like menopause, good. Because spiritual retrograde has the same signature. Nothing is wrong, but things feel off. Nothing is bad, but you aren't certain exactly what's happening. There's a shift inside you, but it feels like it's happening against you or to you or in spite of you. Your hormones are acting faster than your brain can interpret, and they both represent cycles of recalibration. Both are transitional spaces where things feel wild because something new is trying to stabilize. Understand there is nothing new under the sun. Our bodies show us what is happening in our spirits. So does nature, so does the earth. We just have to recognize it. And these periods of time, these periods of spiritual retrograde are as necessary as any other. And if you're anything like me, then of course, the craziness of this world, this government feels like our society is moving backwards. And in my head, it has to be an illusion. It has to be retrograde moments. My faith, my gut, my soul requires that I know this about the world as much as I know it about my body and my innermost dealings. The period of spiritual retrograde is a season where forward growth feels like backward motion because our vantage point has shifted faster than the circumstances do. Our vantage point is shifting faster than our circumstances do. This world has gone batshit crazy. This society, this part of the earth. But something is happening under the surface. The circumstances just haven't caught up. But again, my spirit, my gut, my soul, my God requires that I believe and know that something new is coming. It literally happens in our bodies. And if you can't trust that that is reflected outward, then what can we? But when we're too close, when we are too particular, when we are searching to see and understand every single tiny piece, the whole picture blurs. When we put our idea of something in relationship with reality, it may look like we're going backwards. When we focus on what we thought should be instead of what is, we suffer in that differential space. When really, spiritual retrograde is a time to allow, to observe, but not to invite or embrace. When this comes, our only job is to breathe through it and wait without attempting to interpret the moment. So I ask you, is there any space in your life right now that feels unclear or unsettled or repetitive right now? And how do you impact the, or how does that impact the impression of your changing circumstances? Any spaces in your life that feel unclear or unsettled, repetitive right now? And how is that impacting the impression of your changing circumstances? Alicia, you are hilarious in the chat. All of that, and now y'all ain't got nothing to say? That's wild. That's okay, I'm gonna sit here and look at your beautiful faces.
That's okay. I feel like you ate with that. I'm still buffering.
Just check. Well, that's only part of it. Let's see if we get to the rest of it.
Only
Okay,
thing
I
that I
can.
can think. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Miss Alicia.
Hey, Mama. Um,
Hey.
you know what? The only thing that I can think of right now is, and I put in the chat that I have exes that are popping up or popping out of the woodwork for after years of no contact. And I put it in the signal group, and Miss Anita was like, "Girl, that's retrograde. Leave it alone." And I said, "Well, it is cuffing season, so they all looking for vacancies, right?" And so I said, "I don't got no vacancy now, look, so." And I, I didn't respond to them. I'm just like, okay, what? I just thought that was weird, but that's the only thing that I can think of right now in my life that didn't make sense. And I'm like, okay, what is this? Like, we have not even communicated in over years, and why are you popping up as if nothing happened? They were acting like we were best of friends, and we just went to the movie and saw The Predator, and I'm like, boy, I've not seen you or talked to you in years, so just thought that was weird. That's the only thing I can think of right now.
I love it. May everyone's life have that as their biggest concern. Um, I love it. And I think this brings up an interesting concept around, again, if we're thinking about the elements of spiritual retrograde and what happens to attraction. And I don't just mean like love attraction, but, things that we are attracted to and things that are attracted to us. When shifts happen, a bunch of different things happen, right? People can feel that energy when when a split becomes final, right? You know, those folk, be it people at your job or somebody, an ex or even a friend who wants to make sure that they keep that foot in the door, right? Like, I don't really have to engage with you every so often or all the time, but I want to make sure that the door is always open when I want to sneak or weasel my way in, not because I have good intentions, but because I want to constantly take, right? So when you feel that break, that pull apart, when people know when the door is closing. People know when you close the door, but you haven't thrown that lock. You know what I'm saying? People can feel that, and so they want to try to kind of ease back in. And sometimes it's because they are again attracted to the parts of us that give them or satisfy their needs, but it has nothing to do with what we are actually attracted to, right? We're attracted to our peace. We're attracted to getting them out of our lives. We're attracted to that silence, right? That's what is pulling us, but they're attracted to what we got, to what we can give, to what they can get. So there's this push and pull that happens, and again, we see it in many versions of our relationships with family members, with work. That one supervisor or boss or whatever that is a take, give you more and more and more to do, less resources, less love, less appreciation, less acknowledgement, that kind of thing. Things that are attracted to what we can do for them. In this season, when things are going topsy-turvy, um, a lot of things are going to be attracted to you because the best of you is coming out. And sometimes the worst of you is moving to the surface to be shifted. And the second, we're going to talk about what not to do during these periods. But one of them has to do with not making tough decisions, because how do you know if what's coming or approaching is attracted to the best of you or the worst of you? I told you that you can feel God real close, but you can also feel evil real close. Sometimes you sitting in your godliness, and sometimes you sitting in your not so godliness. You ready to bless somebody out, sometimes by praying and other times by cussing. We need to know what people are pulling or trying to pull from us. And so we have to hold ourselves, create a boundary, and wait and pause, get silent, do some sounding until that discernment kicks back in, until that dust settles. Thank you, Miss Alicia. Mama, I think you have some thoughts.
Yes. Okay, so something that's impacting me is that like I really don't know my emotional or mental capacity. Like I really be thinking I'm fine, I'm floating, I'm moonwalking, like Janelle Monáe, and then boom, I'm like, oh, I'm exhausted. And that's hella frustrating. Like it's so frustrating because I don't know where I end and where I begin. I love the metaphor of the person running. And it's like from the looks of it, from an untrained eye, you think that they're in the back, but really they just did laps 3 times around somebody. And so I'm trying to look at it like that. And then I also feel like the waiting to find your discernment. I feel like in certain space, like people say that, but then they also be like, hurry up, like hurry that discernment up. And I'm like, it might take me like a year. Like I'm gonna have to really sit and wait. And so I feel my work is to not let the emergency of others or the confusion of others impact how I move or how I sit and how I wait.
I love that, for a couple of different reasons. The not letting the confusion of others impact us. What if when you go into a fun house, you let those magic mirrors convince you of the way you look? What if when you leave that space, you can't see yourself clearly anymore? That's ultimately what we're talking about. When people are putting things on us, when they're rushing us, when they're forcing us, when they're pulling us, when they're um, telling us that we should be doing something faster, better, to their standard, whatever, that's literally us saying, oh, you think my body does like this? Like that's what you think? And then us accepting that as fact or true. Instead of being like, nah, wait, I'm gonna need a little bit more time than this. I need a little bit more time. I know for big things, if someone hurts me in a big way, it takes me at minimum 12 months to get ready to start thinking about forgiveness. A year at minimum. And I have no problem typically in that time period saying, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to forgive. I'm not ready to let it go. I'm not ready. I'm not done being mad. But there are people that will tell you that you have to do some emotional work faster, probably because they think that it either benefits them or they think in their self-righteous position that they are some moral high ground over you. That their way is a right way, which means that your way must be the wrong way. And that's not true because your life, your experience, your journey ain't got shit to do with them. If it takes you a little bit longer for your discernment to kick back in, then that's how long it takes. That's it, that's all. And the right people and right alignment with you in your life will know that. And perhaps that period of time is simply someone weaving themselves out, untangling themselves out so that you don't have to do the hard work. Sometimes when we pray and we ask for the obstacles to be removed, it doesn't look like what we anticipate. But some people fix themselves out. Go ahead, Mama.
Yes, I love that. Wait, what sign are you? Your sun sign?
Oh, I'm fire. I'm an Aries. All day.
Okay, because I'm like, I have like my healing Tauruses, they be like that. They be like, I might take this my grudge might be until you're dead. And I'm okay with that. And I'm like, I want to be like that one day. But the other thing is, I will say, for this is important to say. So I've been having night terrors and I have like these nightmares over the span of my life where I'm like constantly saving people. Like that's the whole dream is me saving. People are lost. I'm going to it. I find them. I think I'm kind of invisible. Last night was the first night that in my dream, I actually was like, I'm getting my things and I'm leaving. Like the whole dream, I was like packing up my stuff. I was like, nope, I'm not staying here. And I was like calling people in my dream, but I didn't have their number. So I'm thinking it was like, I'm calling them, but this is the past, so I haven't met them yet. But I'm calling them as like a support. And so, yeah, like I'm really proud of myself. I'm proud of this dream. I hope I have more dreams where I'm cutting cords.
Mhm.
But legitly, this has been like a pain for me for months. So I kind of feel a little bit of hope.
I love that you found yourself in your dream and that you were able to activate that and remember it and recall it um, so you can hold on to that joy, but that feeling of accomplishment that in both realms you get to have autonomy over your body and your space and your involvements. So I love that for you. I know individuals who have suffered with night terrors. I don't even know if it's fair to say suffer because I don't have them, but it seems like an uncomfortable thing that happens to someone. Um, and so I love you stepping into this space of being able to have greater control over that. So thank you for sharing. And I hope you have so many more of those. Um, I just hope you have so many more of those. Other thoughts? Any other spaces that feel like unclear and subtle, repetitive? And even if it's not right now, spaces before that have felt repetitive, cycles, periods that were unclear, having an impact on the evolvement and change and growth of your circumstances, times where you felt it and then later saw the clarity and realized um, that something was being activated, something was occurring.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, hi, Lizzie.
Hey, my internet is not strong and I don't know how it's gonna go, but or yeah, but just wanted to dip in and say that I appreciate this theme, Adande, and actually the way that it's like hitting me right now, like that just comes from something I was talking about with a friend, and just yeah, the way that I'm entering into this is it's interesting, this theme of retrograde, because I actually feel a really strong like spiritual and emotional pull right now to re-examine some, yeah, some painful things in my past. And so the way it's like for me it feels less about like how are things like confusing in the present moment, but more like this retro, like, you know, part of what I know of retrograde, right, is it's like going back and like revisiting. Well, I don't know if that's a retrograde as much as it's like a return, but I'm thinking about what it is to like go, yeah, to do work that like exists in some ways in my past, but it also like impacts the present, right? In such a real way. And so it's like this feels like this inner work of like returning to something and like turning it over and like working through it and feeling it without an understanding of how it's going to influence my present moment and my life and my choices, but like knowing that that's, yeah, that this like going, that this like move of going backwards to revisit something is like really is important for my present moment and like how things unfold in my future. So anyway, that's just how it's all landing with me today, and I'm appreciating it.
I like that. I think part of that is woven into the concept. The overarching uh, thought is the I don't want to say avoidance of, but how do we better lean into space and understand that there is time here for things to surface. And I think that's where these two thoughts and ideas are coming together. You know, what do we do in this space? Because there's a pause, um, and and that re-examining of things, and um, that feeling when things that you thought you had handled or dealt with surface again, it can make us feel out of sorts. And reframing our hearts and our minds to a different perspective is so necessary, because often, and again, we're human and we're humans living in this realm and in this world and in this society, we often blame ourselves. We blame ourselves, we blame our own minds. We try to force ourselves beyond the point where we simply are, instead of allowing ourselves to just be. We do all of these things to try to fix something, but what if it ain't broken? What if taking a moment to examine some old hurts is exactly the thing that is going to catapult you into a world of new perspectives on your life and your life moving forward? We need the space, even when we feel like we're pedaling backwards. And
Yeah.
also, I mean, when I was a kid, I used to like doing that when you're like coasting down a hill on a bike and you literally like just pedal backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Feel moving
Mm-hmm.
forward, but it feels so easy and it's free flowing, but it's the same concept. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're still working the muscles, things are still happening, and we're still moving forward.
Yeah. Right. But it's like this return, and this, in some ways, it, yeah, can feel like this reverse, or like, oh, why do I gotta go back here? Like, what is back here? But yeah, it feels so much also about the present moment and about the unfolding.
And people forget, like I know when I don't know how long ago this was, where I took the story of the woman who turned into salt, and to expand that, but really this idea that yes, I'm gonna look back because some of that shit I loved. Some of it mattered to me, to who even I am moving forward. I don't have to pick it up every day, but I might need to go back at some point. I might need to see that even the things that hurt me gave me joy at some point. Sometimes when everything feels like it's crumbling, we have to remember that most things are birthed in both pain and joy, literally. They're just two sides of the same coin. And we don't have to be flattened by that. We don't have to be fearful of that. If we embrace it as a known necessity, part of the journey, we can see things very differently. Yes, Miss Alicia.
As you guys were talking, I was still marinating on that question. I also learned that I had to learn to confront pain. It has always been my invisible cloak to hide from it, to run from it, to dodge it, to put it up under the table, up under the rug. But I've learned to confront pain because I was taught and conditioned that pain is harmful. It can be, but it also can be a source of liberation, a source of healing, if you look at it from a different perspective. And Adande, you made a great point, is that it's the perspective or the proximity of how we view things that makes it a difference. I've always looked at pain as something, as this big one-eyed monster that's out to get me, right? But it's part of who I am, because the pain has taught me to be a stronger woman, a smarter woman, a braver woman, and stuff like that. And so you brought up a great point about the attraction, because I am going into this spiritual plane of becoming a better version of myself. And so all of the toxic past is realizing that I'm no longer available or no longer accessible. And so when they see that I'm, like you said, I have my phone to lock down, but the keyhole is not accessible. And as they're trying to find that keyhole to get back into my honeypot, so to speak. But I've learned to be okay with pain, and because I've learned to be okay and to confront pain, it put me in a much better position to heal much faster. So I just want to share that as well.
No, I really, really appreciate this, the idea of learning to confront pain, and taking off this invisible cloak, because our bodies are hardwired to avoid things that are painful, physically, emotionally, psychologically, right? Our bodies are literally hardwired. They are predisposed to being like, nope, not that, not gonna do it. Like that's how humans as a species have stayed alive, or stayed around, right? So it's primitive. But one of the beautiful things about growth and evolvement is that we can change that in ourselves. People have, well, for me, marathon runners, I'm like, what is that, like a 10K is like hours. You're running for hours. You are running for hours. People that do those decathlons, so you're gonna run, bike, hike, climb, and swim, whatever, for hours. Hours. The only thing I want to do, I'm gonna keep that to myself. So, oh, it requires some training and some push through to get our bodies to the point where we can do that. But we can do that. And it's in that confrontation. It's in that understanding that we are really only as limited as the limits that we place on ourselves. Pain doesn't have to be a one-eyed monster. It can be an informant. It can be your secret informant. We can play this totally different if you're willing to go through the initial stage of discomfort. Because after that, it's easier and the pain subsides. So that is a beautiful perspective. Pain is healing, it's liberating. Because once you let it show up, you can release it. You can release it. Any other thoughts before we move on? Okay. I was trying to find this paragraph that I hope I didn't edit out of this. In part, Lizzie, when you were talking about all of these things coming up, because Mercury, Neptune, Saturn, Uranus, and one more planet are all in retrograde right now, which has a lot to do with not just communication, but our sense of discipline and responsibility, with our emotional levels, with I mentioned Pluto, that's responsibility, Uranus. There are a bunch of different things. But all of these things that impact how we interact in this world. And so it's not just the one energetic kind of positioning of the planets, but there's a lot that's asking a lot of us at the moment, and it's making a lot of ourselves, lots of the different pieces feel topsy-turvy. And so I think the re-examining makes sense. Oh, and Mercury is in retrograde in Scorpio too, so that has a lot to do with our emotional happenings. Thanks, Queena. Okay.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. And I feel it.
Okay, so the quick scripture that I'm using comes from Matthew 14, verses 22 through 33, but it is the story of when Peter walks on water. And really, we could really look at like these two lines when essentially Jesus comes out the darkness, while Peter and the other disciples have been in this storm, in this boat for however long. And Jesus comes out of the dark, and they are rightfully afraid and can't quite make him out. And Peter's like, well, if it's really you, then like make me walk on water too. And Jesus is like, well, cool, come on. And Peter steps out, eyes on Jesus, and is walking on water, but there's still a storm raging below him, and the waves are crashing and whatever. And the moment he takes his eyes off of the purpose and looks down, he starts to sink. Again, it's a storm. So that means he's probably starting to drown. He's like, Jesus, save me, and gets back in the boat. And Jesus is like, dude, like, what's good? Like, you had it. What was the problem? But he got afraid. He allowed the retrograde season to throw him off his his square. Good morning, Taya. So if we are accepting this spiritual retrograde as the work of our soul announcing a shift, as our soul leaning into a shift, the question really becomes, what do we do with these moments? Or better yet, what do we not do? So everything that I shared or told of Peter, really, the storm wasn't unusual for the time. It was just disorienting for them, much like when shifts happen and it catches us off guard. Sometimes the shift might even be something amazing. When you pray for something and it seems to come effortlessly in a big way. Even that sometimes can be like, whoa, whoa, feels like you're off balance. But it doesn't mean they're out of alignment. It just means that we are overwhelmed by the speed of transformation, the weight of the transition, the bigness, the size, that's a better word, the size of the request, the feeling of suddenly being or seemingly to be out of progress or out of sync with our own progress. And that's exactly what spiritual retrograde feels. It makes total sense that this example actualizes, or at least creates a metaphor and a story that has the same feeling to it. Because we can picture being on a boat. We can picture, if you've ever been on a cruise, if you've ever been on a lake at night, if you've ever been downtown to the Mississippi River, when it gets dark, it gets dark. You can't see anything. So you imagine being on that lake in that boat and someone just walks on top of water out of the darkness towards you during a storm. Okay. I don't know about y'all, but I would have been terrified. And sudden changes, even when they take you by surprise, it makes sense that instead of joy or recognition, even that they would have leaned into fear. And just like us, our responses to these big and heavy and unforeseen changes create a sense of uneasiness and sometimes resistance. You just immediately, when he's like, "Hey, y'all, it's me," you just gonna be like, oh, "Okay, cool, come on." First off, I may not even heard you because I'm so scared. But remember that there is a storm happening. Now, if we think about this in our life, right, there's always something happening in the world. There's always a storm. There's always chaos. And if you tap too much into that, like Delisha said, if we listen too much, if we're paying attention to the news, if we're reading too much, if we got podcasts and audiobooks and music and other folk and work stuff and other people's issues and whatever else it is going on, we are in the midst of a storm. So when God has something for you, you might not even hear it. And if it's something good and big, possibly something that you asked for or been waiting for or being prepared for, you might think, well, now couldn't be the time. This can't be it right now. Now with all this going on, this doesn't make sense. And the disciples screamed out in terror because they made assumptions about what they saw and probably what was about to happen. Maybe it's a sea creature coming to kill us. Maybe it's a big wave. I don't know. If there are other worst case scenarios, whatever that word is. I imagine this is what the disciples were doing. And it's the same way that we do something, that we make assumptions when something in our spirit shifts. Retrograde makes us misinterpret what is actually divine. It makes us label the movements as dangerous because our eyes aren't focused on what God has for us. Our eyes aren't focused on the purpose. Our eyes aren't focused on the horizon. We think what's approaching is a threat. We fear the revelation because we think it's regression. We don't want to go back in and see what the past is telling us because we're fearful of the pain that it might bring. But it's not backwards motion. We're being reoriented. So when Peter got big in his britches and said, well, if you are who you say you are, well, come make me do it. Suggested that Peter was ready. It suggested that he was ready to do the impossible. It suggested that he understood his own preparation. It suggested that he trusted in that divine relationship. But he was already outside of the miracle before he started in it. He was already outside of the miracle before he even started in it. Because doubt was present, which is okay. But what if, and if we do some spiritual imagining here, what if during this space, he had simply acknowledged that? What if he had taken a moment to say, hey, this is a little scary. What if he just needed one more piece of comfort? What might that breakthrough have been? What do we need to occur during these spaces? Spiritual retrograde, review, realignment, reorientation, so that we can better lean in with knowledge. Better yet, what do we not need to do? Because we probably should ask, lean in more, get quiet. We called out some of those things earlier. But what we don't need to do is make permanent decisions from temporary disorientation. Peter thought he was ready. But if he had just taken a moment to reflect and to review, he might have been able to do what he needed to do in order to match the miracle of that moment. Not because it made sense, but because nonsensical things happen in divine timing all the time. And if he had taken a moment, he probably would have remembered that. And much like us, if we allow the retrograde to do what it's supposed to do, if we get quiet and listen, we too might be able to ask the right questions of ourselves. If we see this as a space of preparation, we too might be able to lean into the miracle on the other side. We also might understand that perhaps this kind of space of pedaling backwards is going to exist for a little bit longer than what we meant. We also cannot trust the self-talk, the negative self-talk, the old patterns, the old agreements. When things come back into the space, when old patterns threaten to resurface, we can't trust that that is true. Just because it comes back up doesn't mean we have to lean in those directions. Just because the negative talk increases doesn't mean we have to trust or believe it. We know that this is a time of preparation. We know this is a time of illusion, trickery, even. This is a time where we need to amplify what we know that we know that we know, like the old folks say. But we are not obligated to entertain any parts of our former self. We can acknowledge that they've shown up, but we don't have to sit and have a conversation with them. We also don't want to move forward at full throttle. Earlier, we talked about our mind being in conflict, part of it saying, press pause, the other one wanting to go full speed ahead. What we don't want to do is go full speed ahead. Not yet. If there is conflict, we wait. When our heart is certain, it will tell us with clarity. And we move in knowing this. Don't assume that conflict means destruction. Don't assume, I like what Miss Alicia said, that pain is a one-eyed monster. Anytime God wants to reorient us, there is disruption. There might be chaos. There will be confusion because things have to be moved out of the way in order for other things to come into space. So we cannot assume that conflict means destruction. Disruption, yes, but not destruction. And be gentle with your communication. And really, I mean your talk to self. Be gentle with your communication with self. Frustration in this period is easy to lean into. Be gentle with yourself. Remember that the revelation is still being revealed to you. And if you talk too much, you're going to miss part of what Spirit is saying to you. If you protect yourself too much, you're going to keep out too much of what Spirit is preparing for you. We must remember that our progress is already in motion and that it will not actually be undone by a momentary fog. We must remember that this momentary fog is, in fact, necessary. I bet you Peter learned a real significant lesson on that night. And I'm certain that it had everything to do with how he leans in, the way that he trusts, and if he's going to act before believing truly in his heart again. That's the question for us all. So if you find yourself feeling like a cycle is repeating itself, it is okay to stop and be still and trust that forward motion is still occurring. It is okay to stop and be still and trust that the preparation is still happening. It is okay to stop and be still and observe what is happening around you. It is okay to stop and be still and allow the things that must occur without you touching or disrupting them to occur. It is okay to stop and be still. And when you find yourself doubting, and you will, because we are human and all cylinders are going to fire, it is okay to remind yourself that I am not going backwards. I'm just being recalibrated. I'm not going backwards. I'm being realigned. I'm not going backwards. I am being reoriented to the next part of me, the next phase of me, the forward motion of me. I am not going backwards. I'm just refocusing. Spiritual retrograde is not regression. It is revelation realigning itself. It's the spiritual inner lens. You know, when the doctors be like, is it 1 or is it 2? Is it 1 or is it 2? It's just that. on our spirit. It's just God preparing us for the next higher version of ourselves. There's a blessing in it. It's not a threat. It's a threshold. It's an invitation to enjoy the liminal space. It is our spirit opening its eyes after a break, blinking, or whatever your morning routine is, Miss Alicia. So we just have to breathe, and we don't anticipate, we don't estimate, so that we don't misinterpret the moment. We don't have to panic. We don't need to retreat. We don't have to go back to a previous version of ourselves because we think it's going to make us feel better in this moment. We don't have to force movement forward. We don't have to will clarity to happen. We just have to breathe until the recalibration finishes. And you will know. The fog will clear. Your breath will become deeper. Your sight will become clear. Your heart will feel more focused. Your mind and your heart will be in alignment again. All will feel right. Discernment will return. Your intuition will kick in. The things that were confusing will all of a sudden be clear. Almost as suddenly as the haze happened, it will lift. We're not going backwards. We're just being prepared. I open the floor for final thoughts.
I just want to say thank you so much, Adonde. There was moments when zodiacs and retrograde are not things that resonate for me. I feel like we're always in retrograde according to the people who study retrograde, so I don't get it. And there was a way where I was, I think the looking to the stars of the retrograde versus looking at my own behaviors felt really hard. Like it feels easier to be like, well, I'm stuck because I'm doing X, Y, Z. But there's just so much things that you offered around who was on the water, Peter on the water, and just like staying focused on the purpose, on the assignment, and being able to not to look at these moments with much more compassion and the idea of realignment, because there are ways where I feel constantly in a threshold where I feel between death and rebirth, and I feel parts of me that old parts that are coming up and new parts that are emerging, and looking at it as like, and even there's some old parts that have come up that have been able to transition in ways that required little efforting for me, so just like trying to see that things are happening, and it's not to not look at it as like, well, I need to be efforting more, I need to be doing more. I'm the reason why things are off. And yeah, so I think there was moments where I was like, oh, I don't really know. Like when you first asked the question, I was like, I don't know. But I'm like, yeah, I am stuck. But I don't know if this is retrograde. And now I'm like able to just see it with a different perspective and lens. So thank you for walking us through your understanding of retrograde and connecting in all these different ways. I appreciate it a lot.
Absolutely. And I appreciate the expression of efforting more. Because really that's what we be telling ourselves all the time. Do something else, do more, or you've done little or not enough or whatever it is. And really, maybe this is exactly where we need to be. Maybe this is the exact moment when, when I am experiencing PMS, I definitely want to cuss out the world. But I also want to like cry and get a bunch of hugs. And I'm not even a touchy-feely person. You know what I'm saying? So again, if we see it in one area, particularly in our bodies, then of course our spirit is going through something as well. Like, of course, these cycles happen within our spirit. And I don't have to do anything to make my period start or stop. That ain't got nothing to do with me. I wish it did, but it doesn't. So, of course, and it does feel like I just did this. Like I feel like I'm going backwards. Like we just had this like yesterday, right? No, it really was last month. Okay. So we can beat up on ourselves. But these cycles are evident and we get to embrace them differently. We get to embrace them differently. And if we can see, name it, call it something, give it a phase, it's easier to lean into, I think. So thank you for that, Moma. Come through.
The whole time you were talking, I was like, Adante's my cousin. Like, you the cousin I can call and be like, I got an A-. And you like, okay, it's all right, good. I want to say it's so interesting because I had wrote, I'm on Substack and I had wrote a very depressing but honest reality of my childhood. And speaking of PMS, I remember when I first started my period, I was like, oh my God, like I'm so exhausted. I remember it very vividly when I said no to a chore and I got in trouble for it. I got punished. And I'm like, your body goes through so much, especially, I mean, even now in my adulthood, my is so much heavy, but I can only imagine like my younger self just like being, can I have a moment? Can I just breathe? Like you said that when you were sermoning, like, can I just have a moment to breathe? Can you just give me a pause so I don't go off on me and you? And my work for me is to not effort myself to death and like go back in time and be like, no, you need to lay down. Like, no, you need tea. No, you need to do less. And I really hope that I find that easeful, super sweet, kind auntie cousin inside myself because I constantly need that because I'm so mean to myself. And it's not helping. It has not helped. It will continue to not help. And so I literally wrote down every affirmation you were saying. And throughout the week that I'm struggling, I'm going to literally just open this notebook and read it back to myself.
Good. I think you should. I think we all should, or at least to pull them out whenever we need. We always need that quick go-to. And I think, again, as we are on this journey, it is in the learning of the self that we learn what to add to our toolkit, excuse me, and how to call these things to task, right? Like you said, being able to acknowledge, I definitely didn't know when I was younger, like that the fatigue had anything to do with my cycle, had no idea. But to call it out, like typically at this point in my life, I can be like, oh, no. Like I'm on my cycle. So everything that I'm saying, you should probably take with a grain of salt because I'm pissed at the world right now. Cool. But we call it out because now that I know, it also helps me to see and to regulate, to not blame myself, to not think that I have to do something different. But I'm also just making other people aware. Like, look, maybe this situation ain't as big as I feel that it is. Because right now, I'm angry at the world because my uterus hurts. And that's crazy. So I love it. We lean in more and we just add to our toolbox. Erin.
Yeah, I'm loving this so much. And I feel called to share something. I don't know if it's okay, but I was in my spiritual direction training course recently, and this gospel story came up, and we were invited to like meditate in it from a different perspective. And I just felt like being Mary Magdalene in the story. And so it like for me brings like a feminine perspective to this. Is it okay if I just read what I wrote? Is that okay? Okay, I feel called to do so. Okay, so this is this story, but Mary Magdalene. So she says, I was there too. Everyone always assumes only the men were in the boat, but of course I was there that day, close to Jesus every step of the way. He needed me like he did every day. I asked him to let me pray with him, but after he explained how much better he would feel knowing the men in the boat were in my care, I agreed to leave him to his prayers. When the water started whipping up, I wasn't afraid. It's hard to even let in that emotion with Jesus nearby. One look in his eyes, one touch calms and clears every fear I've ever had. I knew in my bones it would be okay. I know Tiamat, the goddess of the waters, intimately. I knew it wasn't time for her to claim us. But I also revere her power, so I began praying, calming myself with my breath, hoping it would spread to my brothers. When they didn't recognize Jesus walking toward us, I tried to reassure them, "It is the Lord," I said with as much confidence and clarity as I felt, which was completely. They looked at me like I was crazy. How could they be surprised? Did they still not know him, the power he holds, and his total communion with Goddess? I was not afraid. I know that he and Tiamat are one.
I love that for so many reasons. Um, so many reasons. Like my scriptural brain is doing somersaults because, you know, Jesus and Mary Magdalene is my favorite love story. I don't care what anybody says. So, um, so I love that. But what you did was call in not just the divine feminine, but also the constant and consistent representation or acknowledgement that women throughout time and history are often super grounded in our knowingness, in our absolute knowingness, and what happens with systems of patriarchy and how that impacts the experience of the whole. Um, you called into, you know, the divine partnership and prayer and oversight and integration of God's, like, that was absolutely amazing and a perfect complement to looking at this and spiritual retrograde, because here you have the men who are showing us what happens when you feel as though regression is happening, and the woman in comparison who is like, well, no, we're still moving forward. Now we have the thing in relationship to the other thing that makes this thing feel like it's going backwards. Like, we could do this all day. Aaron, I often say that to you when we talk. We could do this all day. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. Taya and then Miss Alicia.
I'm just so grateful for these streams weaving together here. And in this moment, a few things come to, I was going to say mind, but not mind, heart, body, heart, womb. So this morning, as I was laying in my, like, deep in my menstrual Sabbath, I had this wave as my womb was cramping of like, it is so weird to be a woman, someone who bleeds, I'll say. But like, for me, conscious menstruation and honoring menstrual Sabbath as a sacred practice has been the foundation of my spiritual practice for 30 years. And still, I'm like, this is so weird. Like, when I was feeling in my womb today, I was like, I know this is at the heart. And what struck me as I heard Aaron's midrash is, like, I'm in love with Tiamat, like love with Tiamat. And one of the things I know about her, in addition to like just being the primordial deep, is the energy of chaos at the core that allows also the streamline to be like, it's like the eye of, I feel like she invites me often to the eye of the storm. And it's like that there's something in the tandem of, like, if I'm speaking of my menstrual time, there's something in the tandem of the crazy deep rest and the incredible liminal it calls me to, that's just like beyond. And also there's like this chaos energy, like in my womb at this time, that it's like, it feels like, okay, here's my body mirroring the energy of the wild deep sea. And I don't really have a point other than like I'm just loving all these strands. One thing I'll add when like with this invitation, I think was it Momo who said do less? Everyone do less. When I heard the phrase do less, I was just like, so my newest song that I love is called Do Less. I can't remember if I've sung it here, but what's wild, so it's like the lyrics are do less, take your rest, in the being, the doing gets done. And like I watch inside of myself, like the song puts me into rest, and also I'm like, and I want to finish producing it to share it with the world. And it's like so often around anything in my life, I can get into this antithesis conversation of like even I'm remembering like back in 2023, right after October 7th, a session that Rebecca led. It was all about going underground, like in the moments that need the most action, like actually sometimes what there is to do is go underground. And I felt it so strongly. And also I was like, and I just want to share how important it is to go underground. And it's like, I often have these antitheses moments of like being so deep in one thing that I wanted to overflow. And so I have no linear point, just so grateful to be here in the conversation with y'all. It feels so sweet and so resonant.
I love that. I have been, maybe we'll invite you to do something around that kind of practice. I've been wanting to have a ritual practice or spiritual practice around my cycle for a while now. And I know several people that have, in part because I want to not be pissed at the world. Because because, mine are painful. So I want to fight like everybody. I want to fight. But I think that this is such a good offering and practice that we can lean into in spaces like this, because it does bring all of these concepts into one plane. It's an invitation to honor the fullness of ourselves. It is an acknowledgement that things are weird. It is the confrontation of the pain. It is all of these different things, the invitation to rest, to do less, to effort less, to all of these things that we're talking about here, creating this practice kind of, and doesn't it make sense that it would be a practice of our cycle that literally is the opportunity to, or where we're shedding so that we can create space for life to come into this world. Like it totally makes sense that all of this comes together. So you didn't have to have a point. You gave us plenty of points and something to think
Can I
of.
just follow up with one short thing on this, which is I feel like I know in every cell of my being that menstrual Sabbath practice is the original Sabbath. Like I feel like all of the religious traditions of Sabbath came from the embodied practice of resting with the moon in our bodies. And it's like, for me, it's like, and I've worked hard to find scriptures to point to some like proof text for that. And I've found some, but I don't also care about the proof text. Mostly it's just like, I feel like this is the template for Sabbath practice already written into our bodies,
So I agree. Again, we could do this forever. I agree wholeheartedly. And even in practical and agricultural societies, it's the same thing. Like the lunar cycle and the menstrual cycle is what was the template for farming and for harvest seasons and for recognition and and calendar. It is the root. Because again, as we go back to what happens in our body is simply reflected outward. So the habits and interactions and beings of people comes internally, which just comes from nature because that is reflected internally. So of course. And yes, it's fun to have scripture to back up things or to help people see, but okay. And so, okay. Totally feel you. Yeah, we're gonna jump into this. Alicia.
Yeah, you know what? As Aaron was sharing that wonderful insight on message, I've always, like when I study the women in the Bible and I hear their story, it sounds as if it is written from a male perspective or a non-feminine perspective, because women or feminine energy has a different way of expression, right? We tend to be a little bit more emotional, tend to be a little bit more intricate in how we express and how we enunciate things. You know, whether it's the way we feel, the things we smell, how it feels to be all those things. And I wonder, if the women were in the Bible was able to write and share their writing, how liberating it would be for women, because when I read the story about the women in the Bible, it's as if those women are made to be an example for other women to follow. But I wonder how those women actually felt. Did they felt like, I wonder how Sarah felt when Abraham told her about a son, about to be, what he didn't really tell, but when she found out the son about to be sacrificed, how did she really feel? Did she want to say, mother, what's up? The real raw emotion is not in there, because, and so it seems like they took away the emotion, took away like the reality of how these women felt in their viewpoint. Because back in those times, women were not considered to be superior to men, right? Women were taught to be subservient, taught to be, docile and stuff like that. And so, as a writer, I want to play with it and say if Sarah was able to express herself, this is how she would view the situation going on. Same thing with Ruth, same thing with Rachel and all of those other women that's in the Bible, even Esther, even, Bathsheba, Delilah, like all of those women that in the Bible, all of them had a different and interesting story from a woman's perspective. And I want to play on that, but thank you for that, Erin.
I love that. And we're getting into definitely some of the groundings for not just womanist theology, well, definitely for womanist theology, but also where some of deconstruction and deconstructing the Bible comes from and where it's rooted in, because, there is this entire perspective and many of them that are missing. And some of it also comes back to some of the books that have been removed from the Christian Bible, that were intentionally misinterpreted, all of these different things. So, but it comes exactly from that. Like what is missing? There's more to this story, and I know that there has to be. But also, this is where our theological and our spiritual imagination kick in. And this is why the idea of rewriting or leaning in or thinking through these perspectives is so necessary. This is literally the reason that I play with text the way that I do. It's to envision what else is there. What are you not telling me? Some of it's there. Some of it you just got to get a little bit clear on. Some of it's there. It's in the words. It's in the text. You can get to it. But we have to use our experience to expound on it and to see, to dream about and dream into why we're only being told bits and pieces, and what would you do? Because that has every implication to what they did too. So absolutely. And I imagine, as what I'm hearing, what I'm reading also in the text, is that we'll probably get into doing a little bit more of this, looking at and examining and seeking and searching. Because it's fun, if nothing else. If absolutely nothing else. Mama Love, come through. Bring us home.
Wow. All I can say is wow. Thank you for the topic of retrograde. And when I read this morning's invitation to join, it was like, yes, being stuck in this liminal space and how I have to embrace it right now and just say, okay, be still. Know that spirit is working, always working, and that I have to trust and surrender to that power within, that knowing within. And as you said, this may not be a time for me to make big decisions. My heart will know when I should act. The other perspective, and thank everyone for their comments. Aaron, your reading, Mary Magdalene, I really appreciate your veneration for Mary and how you channel her and bring her into our perspective of a voice in the Bible that was not heard. There were so many voices, as Alicia said, women's voices that were not heard. And in this group, we get to honor those women and their perspectives and their roles and how impactful they were in the religion and the Christianity at that time. Also, I would love if I had had someone to help me go through menopause and respect my womb and that cycle. And when you look at indigenous people, women have always honored and respected their womb and their menses. Aaron loaned me a book, The Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois. And in that story, the Native Americans, the enslaved women, were gathered together in a moon house during their cycle of their periods. And I would love for Taya and Aaron and Alicia to guide us through that, even though I've gone through menopause years and years ago. I still feel the life of my womb. I still feel it. It's there. It's very much a part of me, and who I am. And learning to sit and be still and embrace the messages that emerge from my body and my emotions is something very new for me. Because in the past, I could just push through and not honor. But now, in this liminal space, I have to be still. I have to be still and know that I'm not in retrograde. If I'm moving forward, I love that metaphor of the runner who has lapsed the runners and looks like the runner is behind, but actually the runner is ahead. So thank you for this offering. Thank you, Adante. Love you.
Thank you. You made me think of, this idea that even post-menopause, we still feel our womb, but of course, not just as um, the start place of creation, but also, understanding how it is attached to our different organs and, the clitoris in particular being, designed as a primary function of it just being pleasure. Now, of course, a bunch of men spend a whole lot of time trying to dismantle that notion and, give it some sort of creational function. And sure, yes, because what happens with orgasm and what happens with the cervix and blah, 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 blah. I'm holding on to the fact that its sole purpose is to give us pleasure. So again, so it makes sense that post menopause, we would still feel ourselves connected to a pleasure center, something that is designed to help us to conceive, to create, and to manifest. Also knowing that we don't just birth babies. We birth ideas, we birth love, we birth connection, we birth interaction, we birth so much. We birth understanding and wisdom into this realm. So it makes sense that that way beyond we would still be connected to our body and how connecting that is to the whole of who we are as an individual. So I definitely have notes, and Taya and Miss Erin, I will be reaching out to you all because I think that we can play around with this wonderfully in the future. So, okay, not too bad. It's 1:05. I'm still respecting your time. Are there any other thoughts before I close this out? Okay. I will pray us out, and Tasha, we don't have to worry about the last song because I kind of feel like, I mean, the song's called Amen and it's by Pastor Mike, but I just kind of want to let some of this feminine energy be without disrupting that. So I'm gonna pray us out of this space. I hope that you have something to chew on this week and moving forward. But I also hope that you have gained something calming and empowering for you to put into your toolbox as you move forward this week. May your vision be steady, even when your path is not. May your breath be deep, even when your clarity feels thin. May your spirit stay anchored, even when your emotions shift like St. Louis weather. This week, may you remember in the confusion and the stillness, when you are questioning, when you are concerned, to let the unexpected feelings come because your soul does not regress. You are being reintroduced to the strength inside of you that will only show up in the shift. Mother, Father, Creator, we thank you as always, Blessed Holy One and Savior, for showing up, doing and being the impossible, and letting us be a reflection of that. We thank you for showing us a new way from a new position and the knowingness that you will always prepare us, and all we must do is take a moment and let it happen and then lean in to the results. We thank you for being the energy that can bring us out of darkness, up from sinking and into healing from harm. We know that with you, Spirit, there is good work in all of our work. Help us to keep our eyes on the purpose, our eyes on the purpose, our eyes on our divine connection in every moment of disorientation. To the ancestors that showed up and surely showed out today, may you be proud of us and served by us. Let the unspoken desires of our hearts be known to the divine, and may they be fulfilled for the greater good of all. And may the boundless and inclusive love of the Creator, beyond all earthly names and forms, be with us now and forever. And these things we ask in honor of the most divine. Ashe and Amen. Come off mute, greet the room. It is a sunny 58 in St. Louis. Find you something yummy for lunch. Queen, I don't know, I guess it's still breakfast in your side of the country. However, get you something good to eat today, because I just think that you should. Come off mute and greet the room.
Hey everyone.
Thank
Happy
you,
Sunday.
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you.
Love
That
Thank
was
you.
you
so
so much.
inspiring. Thank
Yes.
you.
Have a great week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Beautiful day, all. Good
Yes.
to see you.
Bye,
Good to
everybody.
see
Happy Sunday.
everyone. Thank you, Adande. Wow. What a beautiful session, Adande. It felt so inspired. Thank you. Thank you for how you lead.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Scanlon. I love the sunshine around you always.
Take care.
All right,
Bye-bye.